Okay, so I am going to create a beautiful circle skirt from this gorgeous fabric. But first, I need to create a simple circle skirt pattern. So stick with me and I'll show you just how it's done. Hi everyone, I'm Aletha of Ribbons and Zippers. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I am so glad that you found me today. If you like what you see, please give this tutorial a thumbs up, subscribe and hit the bell so you can see more tutorials like this and awesome sewing tips and techniques. So let's get started. These are the tools that we'll need to create a simple circle skirt pattern. We're going to need pattern paper, pencils, and markers. You will need a straight ruler, a curved ruler, or a pattern making ruler, and a tape measure. You'll also need paper scissors and fabric scissors. And I always like to use muslin to make a mock-up so that my garments fit me perfectly. So first let me say that I love the silhouette of a circle skirt. The circle skirt is one of my favorite silhouettes because it is flattering on any figure, it's comfortable, and it's very versatile. Meaning it can be a mini skirt, it can be a knee length skirt, it could be a calf length, and if it's a floor length and it's a double circle skirt, then you have the makings of a wedding dress or a ball gown or a red carpet dress. And who doesn't love that, right? Now let's talk about what we can do with the circle skirt pattern. First, we're going to create a quarter circle skirt pattern, which is basically a A-line skirt. Then we'll create a half circle, then a full circle, and I'll show you how to double your circle skirt pattern. And then I'll show you how to double your waist measurements so that you can create either a gathered or a pleated waist. So, believe it or not, we can do all of these versions with just one body measurement, and that's the waist measurement. But we need the formula to work out the correct measurements for the radius, which will help us to create our waistline. The formula that I like to use is 2/3. So for this illustration, I will be using 30 inches as my waist measurement. I'm going to multiply that by my formula, which is 2/3. Then I'll divide that by the number of quarters needed for my skirt pattern. So 1 for the quarter circle skirt, 2 for the half circle, and 4 for the full circle skirt pattern. So since I'm here at my sewing table, let me illustrate this for you with a small scale version. My first pattern is going to be my quarter circle, and I'm going to start by creating a right angle on my pattern paper. Okay, let's go. As you can see, my L-shaped square ruler is quite long. If you need to go any longer, you can use a yardstick. But since I'm going to do a small scale, this will do. For the quarter circle pattern, start by making a right angle on your pattern paper and marking your first point as A. Next, find your point B. So point A to B is your radius. So since I'm using a small scale, my calculation will be different from yours. You will be using your own waist measurement. Multiply that by the 2/3 formula that I showed you just now. In the illustration, I used a waist measurement of 30 inches multiplied by 2, which gave me 60. Then I divided 60 by 3, which gave me 20. But again, you're using your own measurements. Mark this point B. And this is going to be your radius. So you will be marking points B on your horizontal line and your vertical line. Next, using your A to B measurement, create your waist curve. Take your time and make sure to be very accurate here. Use a curved ruler to connect the dots along the curve. Next, find your points C. C is your skirt length. It could be a mini skirt, it could be your waist to knee, it can be even to your calf, like a calf length. It's your preference. It really doesn't matter. You're not going to be going by my measurements. It's going to be your preference. Now mark the length as point C. Mark your horizontal line and your vertical line. Now put the tip of your tape measure in the corner of your right angle at A, and now you're going to create your dotted curved hemline. Now you're going to use a curved ruler to connect the dots along the curve. Add your seam allowance along the sides and the waist. Now go ahead and cut out your skirt pattern. So now let me show you what it looks like on my small scale. Okay, so we've just created a quarter circle skirt pattern, and this is what it looks like on my small scale. It's basically a A-line skirt. So you can do a couple of things with this A-line skirt or quarter circle skirt pattern. You can add seam lines to the sides. I can add side seams to either side of my skirt by just adding my 1/2 inch seam allowance or 1/4 inch seam allowance or 5/8 inch seam allowance. This is my center back. This is where you would either put a zipper. So for my quarter circle skirt pattern, I can have no seam in the front, just a center front, and 2 side seams and 1 back seam. Okay, now for the 1/2 circle skirt pattern, you are going to create the pattern in the same manner that we just created for the quarter circle skirt pattern. So go ahead and do all of your calculations. Look at my 2/3 formula, create your pattern, and when you're done, you're going to notice after you cut it out that the 1/2 circle pattern, the waistline is smaller. Okay, and that's for a good reason. It's because now it's 1/2. All right, so when you open up that skirt pattern, it's going to, when you open up that skirt pattern, you're going to notice that it's 1/2. So when you do double it so when you lay it down on your fashion fabric and you cut it out, it's going to be double. You have to add your seam allowances, and that's it for the 1/2 skirt pattern. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut out the fabric with our 1/2 circle skirt pattern. So I'm going to lay my pattern on my fabric on the fold. I'm going to go ahead and pin my pattern down to my fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. And as you can see, I'm cutting out the selvage edge and my waist. Okay, so now you can see it's a lot more flared out than the quarter circle skirt pattern. Okay, so you can do a few things with the half skirt pattern just as you could with the quarter skirt. You can cut your pattern in half, lay the folded part down on the fold, and then cut out two sections for the back. And so then you'll have two side seams and you will have a center back seam where you can put a zipper, and on the side seams you can put pockets. So now let me show you what it looks like as compared to my quarter circle skirt. So my quarter circle skirt is much, so my half circle skirt is much more flared out than the quarter circle skirt. You can see that. All right. And so that's it for the quarter circle skirt and the half circle skirt. Let's move on to the full circle skirt pattern. So for the full circle skirt pattern, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to use the calculations that I gave you for 2/3, and you're going to create your full circle skirt pattern. I'm sure you notice that the radius for the waist is getting smaller and smaller, and that's the way it should be. So after you cut out your pattern for your full circle skirt, we're going to go ahead and lay it down on the fabric. So be aware that for the full circle skirt, it's different than the quarter circle skirt and the half circle skirt, because for those two patterns you only needed to cut one. For your full circle skirt, you're going to need to cut two. One on the fold and two pieces not on the fold. Okay? So one on the fold and two not on the fold. So when you cut it out, both pieces, this is what it looks like. You're going to have a half circle and you're going to have two pieces, two quarter circles, and these three pieces make a full circle. And that's why it's called a full circle skirt. So you have your two side seams where you can put pockets as well, and you also have your back seam for a zipper. All right, let me show you what it looks like on my small scale. Okay, so I sewed it up, and this is what my full circle skirt looks like on my small scale, as you can see. Okay, so as I mentioned, you can have your back center back seam, and you can have two side seams where you can install pockets, and the front is cut on the fold, and it has so much flare. It just looks really, really nice. So this is the full skirt. So here we have our full skirt. We have our half skirt, and I did not sew my quarter skirt, but that's the quarter. But this is my quarter skirt, my half skirt, and my full skirt. All right. So I showed you how to do all three, and we looked at what they looked like. So the half skirt is just like this. It's a half circle. The quarter skirt is just a quarter circle. The quarter is a quarter circle, the half is a half a circle, and of course the full skirt, circle skirt, is a full circle. So there you have it. Okay, everyone, so we are going to work on our double circle skirt. But I just want to point out, and you've probably already noticed, how the waist circumference gets smaller and smaller. So this is your quarter circle skirt, and as you can see, this would be your full waist circumference. So this is the full waist circumference. For the half circle skirt, we use a smaller radius, and we have a half circle skirt, which this is half of your waist circumference. For the full circle skirt, we use this even smaller radius, and this would represent 1/4 of your waist circumference. Now, if that is the case, then what do you think the radius or the circumference of a double circle skirt is going to be? Exactly. It's going to be 1/8. So your radius is going to be smaller. So we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing by starting off with our right angle. So we're going to create a right angle as we've been doing. I'm going to mark this point A as usual. And to get to point B, we need to do our math again. So remember, for the full circle skirt, our radius was the smallest. So we take our circumference, and whatever our waist measurement is for the full skirt, take that measurement and you're going to divide that by 2. So it's even going to be even smaller. Okay? So for instance, and I'll just write it here for you. If your waist was 30, you're going to times this by 2. So it'll be 30 times 2 equals 60. And remember, we're using the two-third method. So for your full skirt, it's 4 times 3, and that equals 12. So we're going to divide 12 into 60, and we get 5. So this is going to be 5 divided by 2, which is 2.5 inches. Okay, so 2.5 inches is for a 30-inch waist. My waist, I'm using my smaller version, so I get a different measurement. So let's go. So again, we're going to find our B, our point B. Mine is going to be different from yours. Okay. And then we're just going to fill in, make our curve here. Then same thing. This is the same process. It's just a smaller radius. Same process, smaller radius. Now I want to find my C. Okay. And I'm going to do the same process. From point A to point C, I'm going to find my measurement. And I'm going to measure all the way around. Okay, so here is my double circle skirt. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and make my seam allowance. So here we have our double circle skirt. Okay, so let's mark this double. This is our double circle skirt. Okay, so let's mark this fold. Let me write it this way. Okay, so if this is going to be on the fold, you can get rid of the seam allowance. So let's go ahead and put this on our fabric. So for your fabric, you're going to need to create a double fold. So what do I mean? So this is your salvage edge or your raw edge of your fabric, and this is your folded edge. So in order to create a double fold, because it is a double circle skirt, you need to double your fold. So what we're going to do is fold our fabric down. So now you have a double fold. So this would be a double fold, okay? And this is a double fold. Same process for the double circle skirt as the full circle skirt. We are going to cut right here. We are going to cut one on fold and then cut two. Okay? We're going to cut one on the fold, but this is going to be on the double fold, and one on the double fold and two on the fold. I don't want to confuse you. So we're going to cut one. So let's go ahead and do that. So for that, you need to have both your folded edge and your seam allowance on the fold. Okay? So we're going to put both our fold and our seam allowance on the fold. Okay? This is going to be our cut one. Cut one. So we're going to take our fabric scissors and we're going to cut one. All right? So remember, mine is a small scale, so I can move my fabric around. For you, it may be different, but let's just go ahead and cut one. All right, here's our cut one on the double fold, double circle skirt, double fold. Cut one. We are going to just open our seam. Okay, and this is your cut one. All right, so now we have to cut two. So we go back to our fabric. You're going to double it again. All right. You're going to place your fold on the top fold, and you're going to have some seam allowance. It's not going to be exactly on the fold. You're going to move it over some because you need to have two. You need to cut two. Now, remember, we're cutting our seam allowance this time. All right, so now I have, this is my cut two. So I have my circle skirt that I cut one. So this is one. So I cut my one, and I cut my two. And you're going to sew your seam allowance. So here you would have a nice seam allowance. You would have your opening in the back for your zipper. You can also put pockets on your seam, but as you can see how beautifully this is done. Okay, so let me just show you. This is our quarter circle skirt. Remember, this was just a quarter of a circle, and it's pretty much just an A-line skirt. And our quarter circle skirt is just a quarter of a circle. You can put seams, you can add seam allowances on both sides, and you can make your zipper in the back. You can have this no seams on either side with the zipper in the back, but in any case, the quarter circle skirt is pretty much an A-line skirt. For your half circle skirt, which will look like this, you can have your seams on both sides and a zipper in the back. I'm just gonna put that there for a moment. And so this is what your half circle skirt would look like. And when it's on your body, it'll fall really pretty with folds that just go down your body. It looks really pretty. And again, this is your half circle skirt. And you can cut this up any way you want. You can make your half circle on the fold, and you can cut, and you can make seam allowances. So it could be 4 parts. You can make it into one whole part in the front. You can cut it into 3 and make 3 parts, however you want, as long as you add seam allowance. Then we have our full circle, which we place on the fold. And then we add our seam allowance as well. And our full circle looks like this. This is our full circle skirt. So when you wear it on your body, it looks really pretty. And we looked at it on our scale. So for the full circle, you can have 2 side seams. You can have your zipper in the back. You can add pockets. And it looks really, really pretty on you. Okay, so that would be a full circle skirt. And you can also use your pattern to make as many seam lines as you want. You can cut it in different sections, and you make sure that you cut it on the bias, and you have your beautiful full circle skirt that falls like that. Now we have our double circle skirt, which is also cut on the fold. But remember, we doubled our fabric, and when we did that, we came up with a double circle skirt. So we cut 1, and then we cut 2. So for the double circle skirt, it's so much fuller. We can have our pockets on the side. We can have our seam lines on the side. We can have our zipper in the back. But what's really fun about it is that it's so much fuller. This is the type of skirt that you would wear to, this is the type of skirt that you would put on the bottom of a wedding dress, or you would put it on a ball gown, or a dress that you would wear to a red carpet affair, or it's just so gorgeous and so full and so beautiful. So this would be your double circle skirt. Okay guys, so that is all of the illustrations for today. But as I mentioned, I am going to show you how to double the waist. You can do pleats or gathers, but I'm going to show you that in the next video. So come back and watch how I do a double waist on a full circle skirt with that gorgeous fabric that I showed you. So thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you in the next video.